everyone. So today I'm going to do a little reading actually from this children's book. It's by George Takei. You may know him from his Star Trek fame, who is also a Japanese American who was interned during World War II. And there are some things that I think are really relevant for those of you, especially for my white friends who are like just waking up to the fact that, oh my gosh, like I hear a lot from my white friends of like, I can't believe this is America. I can't believe this is happening. And sometimes it means I have to fix my face when that happens so that I don't alienate anybody who's just coming to this realization for the first time, because you know, we all come to this realization for the first time, or we don't, but for the most part, the friends in my friend circle are, some of them have known this. My indigenous friends, yeah, this is kind of how it's been since white folks kind of came here. My black and brown friends, my black friends, yeah, this is kind of how it's been since we were brought here. And my brown friends are like, yeah, this is how it's been for us for a while. And for me, as a fourth generation Japanese American, Asian, I look for information and inspiration from my family's own history. And so my family's history is from the internment. My grandparents and great-grandparents were rounded up and put in internment camps during World War II. And as I research some of my family's own history, I find some lessons and patterns for folks who are looking to find some more pattern recognition or trying to expand their understanding. So today I'm going to read to you from this book. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. I definitely cried a lot when I first opened it and read it because it's hard. It's hard to dive back into a generational trauma and to feel all those feelings and to realize that this is something that didn't just happen to other people, but it happened to my family. So here's a little excerpt from that book. So this is on page 9 of the book, and I'll show you the picture. This is my inner elementary school teacher showing you the picture. Oops. Sharing the picture with you. And what it says is, bang, bang, bang. U.S. Army soldiers pounded on the door. They ordered us to leave our home on Garnet Street in Los Angeles. We took only what we could carry and were sent to Santa Anita Racetrack. Each family was assigned a horse stall to sleep in, still stinky from the stench of horse manure. Mama said it was humiliating. Daddy remained silent. But I thought it would be fun to sleep where the horsies slept. The stalls were full of creepy bugs, flying insects, and germs. Baby Reiko was the first to get sick. Then I did too. Our mama lovingly cared for us. Now I'm going to encourage us to stop and think for a moment of what that must have been like. George Takei, when he was sent with his family to these camps, he was a young kid, so you can see his resilience in that moment of, yeah, this is kind of fun, like horses slept here. And for a lot of children who have that natural exuberance and that natural resilience, who are learning about the world for the first time, this was not unusual or new for them. This just was the way it was. But for his family members who were aware of their lives before, what must it have been like to be ripped from those lives based on the color of their skin and their race and sent to these conditions to live in barely cleaned out horse stables for months. They lived there for months. And then there's a shift, and this shift I want to read you about a little bit too. This is from page 26 of the same book. This is after the family had been moved from the horse stables, the temporary horse stables, after months of living there, to a camp, an internment camp. And then Japanese families were asked these loyalty questions in a questionnaire. So I'm going to start there. We had been at Roar, that's the internment camp, for a year when the government changed its mind. Now they needed our young men and women to serve in the war. But all of us Japanese Americans had been classified as enemy aliens. That was part of the Alien Enemies Act that has been reignited by this administration. How could enemies serve as U.S. soldiers? Everyone in the camp over the age of 17 had to answer a list of questions. For Daddy and Mama, those were trick questions, especially numbers 27 and 28. Daddy and Mama both thought that the two questions were stupid. The only honest answers were no and no. Those who answered yes were drafted by the government to fight for America in Europe. That was my grandfather. He was drafted by the government. His family answered yes to one of those questions, and he was signed up for the military. He served in the 442nd Regiment, a very highly decorated regiment, and Purple Hearts and commendations for their service, mostly because they got the crappiest assignments. They didn't have a choice. It was a forced draft. My parents, by answering firmly and honestly, were branded disloyal and forced to leave Camp Roar. This was my grandmother's family. we would be sent back across the country to a harsher camp called Camp Tule Lake in Northern California. So this is where my grandmother's family were sent. Camp Tule Lake was called a segregation camp for disloyals. It was nothing like the lush and verdant swampland of Camp Roar. Tule Lake was a maximum security prison with 3 layers of barbed wire fences, sentry towers equipped with machine guns pointed right at us, and huge rumbling tank patrols. Tule Lake was the largest of the 10 prison camps and held the most inmates, more than 18,000 people. Half were children like Henry, Reiko, and me. So here's a picture of that camp. And I'm going to pause my reading here for today because A, it's really long, but also because I think this is where I want to focus our lesson today, which is really about what these camps must look like right now. We don't know what a lot of these detention camps are like. I know from my family's experience what it meant for the U.S. government to throw together haphazard and underfunded camps for the forced removal of the Japanese Americans. And so the conditions in these camps is a bit of a black box to a lot of us. And I want us to think about the families who are in these camps, like my grandparents who aren't receiving proper medical care, aren't receiving food that is nutritious for them to eat. My grandmother talked about the boiling of spoiled mutton that they were given as food day in and day out. And so for a long time, and for the rest of her life, she couldn't eat lamb because as a result of just bringing back the sense memories of the spoiled mutton. So inhumane conditions, really, sent to be living like livestock in horse stalls. So I want us to think about that, and I want us to reflect on the families and children who are experiencing these things right now, afraid of whether or not they're going to survive. Are they going to be deported? My grandparents' family were afraid that they were at any moment going to be shot or killed. They don't know the outcome, what comes next. They have the history of the concentration camps in World War II that were unaliving people based on the race and the color of their skin. And so what does that mean for them? So the fear that these folks must be in right now. So I want us to think about that and reflect on that as we move forward in the world with the understanding that this is something that our government has done within the last 80 years, in addition to what's happening right now. So for my white friends who are just now waking up to this and feeling like I don't recognize this America, this has been America since as long as America has been America.